Right. Thank you, Eric. And thank you also to Karen behind the scenes. It's so wonderful. Um, Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Um, and I want to especially thank everyone for joining me this past weekend at the Art of Living. It was a very quick retreat, but I think we got a lot done, you know. So it was really wonderful to see some of you in person, and I hope to see some of you in person in other gatherings and retreats coming up this year as well. So welcome again. This is Medicine Buddha. Welcome to those of you who are new to this space. This is indeed a practice space rooted in the very ancient tantric tradition of medicine Buddha, um, the Buddha of healing, but also I do believe a Buddha of activism as well. Um, as I tend to read some of the medicine Buddha writings and teachings, and call them tantras, as being a call to understanding that healing is about liberation and vice versa. Liberation is healing. Um, Not just healing from physical sickness or anything that feels uncomfortable in body or mind, but to actually disrupt the systems, the causes and conditions that prevent us from experiencing wellness and balance, right? Anything that gets in the way of that has to be abolished. Right? But if you go deeper into that teaching, we understand that everything is already arising from this experience of emptiness, the state of emptiness. So to abolish, I think, in a really tantric framework, is to begin to remember the nature of everything that arises, everything that we struggle with, even the things that we love, everything is arising from this experience of emptiness and space and energy, that our minds itself, or themselves, or whatever, is an expression of the same emptiness. And so the deeper secret practice of medicine Buddha, which is the secret practice of all meditational deities and tantric Buddhism, Tara, included, is to help us to remember the fundamental essence of everything, right? That fundamental essence you can call God, as long as your understanding of God is about liberation and space and love, not control, domination, or judgment, right? That God is not a person, but an experience, a state not centralized or pinpointed to a particular personality or etiquette or way of being, but is a state of being that transcends all dualism, all suffering, that we are trying to not return. It's not like we've fallen from heaven, right? It's not like we've fallen from somewhere. We just kind of got distracted. And then our practice is about coming back into awareness, right? Coming back into awareness to begin to divest from the distractions, the silliness, the dramas, the chaos, the pretty songs, and to reinvest our attention into the actual essence, the very nature of everything, which is emptiness. So this non-conceptual um, abiding within the nature of all phenomena, which is exactly what the Buddhas, and particularly meditational Buddhas and deities like medicine Buddha is. This is exactly what we're trying to do. We're being led back. Again, we are being led from distraction back into attention, back into awareness. It is as gentle and simple as that, even though it takes a whole lot of fucking effort, right? It's the gentleness, right? That I'm always trying to communicate, because at the beginning, practices like this seem like it takes so much effort. You know, you're so aggressive. I have to be aware. I have to be mindful, right? I have to do this, right? And you're so aggressive with it. You know, it's just like, I'm going to dominate my meditation, right? And that's not the point, because actually we're trying to relax into this remembering, right? As I always talk about with the Magic Eye books, and I talk about this in the New Saints, like you look at those pictures, you know, and you don't see the image until you start relaxing your eyes, start relaxing. And for me, it feels as if I am spreading into or spilling into this picture, this image in front of me. And when I start consenting to just letting myself expand, to relax, to open, then the picture comes into focus, right? And this is what I'm really encouraging us to do in our practice. Anytime you practice with me, right, is to give yourself, offer yourself permission to consent to just opening, expanding, letting go, right? And you're saying, oh, like I can't let go because this thing will disappear. That shit ain't going nowhere. You can let it go for a couple seconds. You know, like it's just gonna be there. Let space do work for you and hold that while you open and let go, right? Dissolving or disrupting that intense fixation on everything, right? That creates this kind of hyper reactivity. And that hyper reactivity is so draining, right? And if you're drained, you don't have much energy to invest in getting free. That sounds really familiar. I wonder what's happening right now in the world that feels hyper reactive to us, that feels urgent. I think it's one or two things happening at least, right? That intense urgency, and we feel tethered to that thing, that urgency, right? And at some point we have to disrupt that tethering to the urgency, right? Because if we don't disrupt that, there'll never be enough space for us to decide on how to respond. Not just react. There's not a lot of space in reactivity to do anything generative. And if you do happen to do something generative and liberatory in reactivity, you know, good for you, right? Right? A clock is always right at least twice in a day, right? But you want to increase the the capacity to respond to everything with clarity or wisdom, and deep care or compassion, right? Like we need a little bit of space to do that. And when you get that little bit of space by disrupting reactivity, and of course you disrupt reactivity by actually allowing yourself to open, to relax, and to begin to actually experience this energy.
What, baby?
I know, like I love that. I love when like the muting is like off and people like giving us glimpses into their life, you know. But don't worry. This is Zoom. Like it's just like um but no, like that whole like you have to there has to be a little bit of space to respond, right? And your response may be exactly the same thing as the reaction. Possibly, right? But at least you chose the response. To choose. It's the agency that we're trying to develop in this practice to disrupt the reactivity, to begin to actually feel, to experience not just this energy of urgency, right? But everything, the subtext or the sub narrative beneath the urgency, right? To experience it all, to feel it in our minds, to feel it in our bodies, and to come into a kind of gentle, open, even tender relationship with everything, right? And of course, when you're doing that, you're going to actually make room and space for the brokenheartedness to be present, the grief, the anger, the fear. All of these experiences are asking for space. And we don't, and we can't give any of the space if we're always just reacting to everything. You're actually, overreactivity is just another way that we bypass, feeling, experiencing. Right? The doorway to real liberation is through experience. Buddhism is the path of experience, which sucks, right? Because why doesn't that work if we just bypass it? Well, if you bypass everything, then you'll never have the practice or the training that actually helps us to move into everything without wanting to just run away from it. Because we're ultimately trying to develop this non-judgmental, open, accepting attitude to everything, even the shit that scares us the most, right? To begin to lean into everything, right? And this is why I love the last song that I played, Beyonce's song. I didn't play that because something extraordinary happened last night. I'm definitely not playing that album because of that. But what I'm saying, right? The lyric in that song, what is it? Here's a hope and fall fast asleep tonight, 'cause I need to get through this. Time heals everything. I don't need anything. Like time heals everything. I don't need anything. Right? For me, it goes right into this because this is about the patience that we're calling into our practice to hold the space for everything that feels terrible right now. Because everything that feels terrible is asking to be cared for, right? And you realize that you don't need much except a willingness to say yes to what arises, right? And the support from all your resources is always available, right? It goes back to a teaching from my teacher who says, whatever happens, happens, whatever comes, comes. I don't need anything at all. Right? Whatever happens, happens. Whatever comes, comes. I don't need anything at all. This is the attitude that we're trying to awaken here. You can call it fearlessness, you can call it courage, right? I think it's all of that. But it is the simple choice that we make that says, you know what? Shit is happening, and I'm going to choose to show up to it. And to choose to show up to it also means that I'm choosing to show up to my experience of what's happening, right? When I talk about emotional labor and when I talk about metabolizing things, this is what I mean. Whatever arises, I say yes to, and I meet it. No matter how beautiful it is, no matter how grotesque it is, I say yes, right? this attitude for me has taken me into some very dark places, into wrestling with trans-historical trauma, wrestling with the impact of chattel slavery, as trans-historical trauma has taken me into my own intense fears and aversions, right? It has taken me into some of the most heartbreaking things, right? Deep disappointments, brokenheartedness, right? The truth, period, the truth, right? And what I've learned because of the incredible support of teachers and guides and mentors and deities and so forth is that I have what I need to say yes. And the more I say yes, the more things like fear actually stops being this antagonist, but that fear becomes actually a teacher for me because fear and everything that we're trying to habitually avoid is always trying to teach us how to get free, right? But we don't get close enough to get the teaching, to get the medicine. But that medicine, I think, we're afraid of it because to engage in the real teachings of everything that we're afraid of means that we will have to change. That who we think we are will need to die. Who we think we are also needs to be offered and let go of. And some of us are terrified of that, literally, honestly terrified, because we don't know who we are on the other side of all of this. You've built a home, right, in this body, and some of you have done incredible work to really come home to the body, to do this really important work of undoing, participation in systems of violence. And that's an ongoing process. And you've done really brilliant work, you know. And if you've built an identity around how wonderful you are at doing the work, even that identity has to die. Right? This whole thought of like, oh, I'm such a good person for giving a shit, that's gonna have to die too. Because what is demanded is a complete kind of letting go of all of these narratives, right? And stories we tell each other, that we tell ourselves about who we think we are and how wonderful we are. And even the stories we tell each other about how miserable we are and how much we don't deserve, right? All of that has to be surrendered. So much of my path has been a continuous surrendering over and over and over again. Right? Every time I think I'm hot shit, I have to surrender that. You know, all the times I think that I'm not good enough, I surrender that. I offer this to emptiness. I offer it to the earth. I offer it to my benefactors. This is really deep healing, right? And this is what's happening. And at some point you have to lean a little deeper into this because it's easy to get comfortable, right? As Tyra Banks used to say, it's easy to rest on pretty, right? But it's easy to rest in parts of our practice that feels really good. And that's wonderful. I'm glad practice feels good, but I don't really care if it does, actually, right? Feeling good and getting free are two different things, right? Something that Andre Leontali talks about in his writing and his interviews is, of course, Andre Leontali, fashion icon and fashion journalist that died a few years ago. who, by the way, if you don't know who he is, then you haven't been paying attention to anything that I've been saying or writing for the past year. By the way, you know? Um, but he talks about like the wonderful life that he had, and I love Andre Leon because his life mirrors mine so much. We have a very similar upbringing, and we both found ourselves in spaces where we weren't really represented. Big black queer gay men aren't, really like, headlining fashion shows or, in these elite fashion circles, nor are they in Tibetan Buddhism, by the way. Strangely enough, I know that sounds like a surprise, but you don't get too many of these as lamas. No. But so I learned a lot. Like there's a language that we share, that has helped me so much. And that's why it feels like I'm always talking about him. Because when you find people who so closely mirror your life, you hold on to them because there's real teaching and medicine there. So I use that. I don't take that for granted. But anyway, he talks about this really amazing life and the suffering that came with that life, the choices that he had to make, right? He was very open about that, which is really deeply healing for me. But he used phrases like um, the gilded hells, hells, you know. And he would talk about being, just literally living at like hotels like the Ritz, and having all of these, these luxuries. And he was like, yeah, it was a golden hell, you know, and it just hits you, right? This golden hell. So you can have all the comforts in the world, you can have all this material wealth, and it's still suffering, right? And this is why I say all the time is that like comfort isn't going to get you free, comfort isn't going to make you happy. What's ultimately going to be the source of real happiness is the freedom from suffering, right? And what intensifies suffering is the space that we're able to cultivate to hold the suffering and to process it, to respond to it. And this is the space that Medicine Buddha is trying to awaken for us. I believe this is the space all the Buddhas and all like deity practices in the tradition are trying to do. We're trying to reconnect to space, right? Instead of being held by the intense urgency and the anger and the fear and the despair and the hopelessness, instead of being held by those energies, why don't we choose to be held by space? And when we're held by space, we have the opportunity to choose how we want to be in relationship to all these other things that feel very uncomfortable right now, right? And it is possible, even in this moment of systemic collapse, this moment of apocalypse, it is quite possible. Actually, I really don't believe that you should give yourself a choice, frankly. Don't give yourself a choice. Or as my imaginary drag mother, Latrice Royale, says. And by the way, I just throw out these names because I know one day someone is going to roll into this space who's going to say, you know what, that's my friend. And they're going to like private message me and say, oh my God, like I can put you into contact with so and so. So if you know Beyonce, hook a brother up, right? But like as Latrice Royal says, and I talk about this all the time, you have to eat it. Eat it. You have to fucking eat it. Now do it with me. Get your snaps ready, honey. You have to fucking eat it. Eat it. Eat that. That's a little 90s though. Like this is a little 90s. This is a little men on right here, but you have to eat it. That's work. That's work, baby. you know? the fierceness. I don't want to keep going on and on. I just wanted to share a word. My spirit was activated today, and I just wanted to share a word. I just wanted to share a good word from the tradition. You know, but space, fierceness, directness, the fearlessness, and the calm, the rootedness, the groundedness at the same time, to touch the ground and to lean forward and to say, I'm not afraid of this. Because all of this arises from this emptiness, the same essence, this emptiness which is always and has always been liberated. So we start there. Let's start there, right? As we begin to approach, medicine Buddha, right? Let's start there. Everything that arises is an expression of emptiness. And of course, this is just a thought to begin with. So let's begin with the thoughts, the contemplation. Everything that arises is emptiness, right? And when we say emptiness, we're not talking about nihilism. Like, there's a different philosophical framework there. We're not talking about nothingness. Actually, when we talk about emptiness, we are talking about fullness. There's a fullness to emptiness. There's a suchness to emptiness. It's not a nothing. It's not a coldness. When we say cold, that's the way the ego and the sense of self is trying to co-opt this to keep us from it, right? Because when we talk about emptiness, we're talking about a state that transcends the sense of self, something that feels autonomous and separate, the sense of I. Who are you, by the way? I mean that in many ways, like I literally, like, who are some of you people? I've never seen you before. And also, secondly, like, who are you as a question for yourself? It's this existential question, but don't get so lost in that. Who are you? What are you? Right? And some of you are always wrestling with these questions, and that's fine. But who are you? Who am I? Right? And when I pose that question and when I contemplate that question first for myself, what I notice is just sensations. Like, I tend to think I am something because I'm feeling something, you know. I think therefore I am, but that's not about thinking. I'm talking about feeling things. I feel these sensations and therefore this must be me, right? I'm feeling the weight of my body. Is that me? I'm feeling parts of my body. Is that me? I'm feeling my breath. I'm noticing my breath. Who is that? What is that? Is that me? Is that an expression of me or myself? Right? This kind of self-inquiry practice, which is very common. Like, for those of you who've really been on the path for a bit, this is just very like early stage practice, self-inquiry. What am I? Who am I? Asking these questions, going through all of these lists. Am I my finger? Am I my breath? Am I my foot? You just go through that, for a long time. But it's helpful, right? Because the more I've done that over these years of practice, the more I land in this really ambiguous unknowing, which I really believe is helpful. And I'm kind of stuck there, right? This ambiguous knowing, this ambiguous awareness of these things, these experiences that get strung together, and how I began to label the whole ball of stuff as me. This is me. The thoughts, the sensations, the feelings, right? Me. But instead of saying, oh, this is me, rather say instead, oh, these are just experiences. These are experiences that are happening, arising right now within my mind. You can say my mind, and I think that's okay. These things are arising. These things are happening, and I'm just paying attention. And I'm not self identifying with anything. It's not my anger, my despair. It's not my sadness. It's just sadness that's arising. There's sadness. There's the experience of sadness, the experience of fear, the experience of fatigue. There it is. I am not tired, but I can say I am experiencing fatigue or sadness. I am experiencing. And yeah, we're still using I, but we're doing this profound work of disconnecting, disrupting the sense of I from being anything. And that's a really important way forward into this. If there has to be an I right now, then let the I experience what's arising, not be what's arising. My body, right, is an experience. Everything is an experience. I experience. That can start creating a lot of space for us. The experience of the weight of my body and the seat rising to hold me, that's an experience. And the more I choose to relate to everything as an experience, the more I begin to experience and relax into space, spaciousness itself. And the tightness of the focused mindfulness, right, begins to relax into awareness, awareness being this knowingness of everything that arises without focusing on one thing in particular, but having a sense of multiple, everything arising at once. And this is how we start approaching all the Buddhas, not just medicine Buddha, but all the Buddhas. This is how we start touching into this profound experience of the Buddhas by allowing ourselves to experience, not just not be, but to experience what arises. Right? Feeling the seat under you as an experience. Connecting to the earth, the land, as this ultimate anchoring experience, tethering all of us. I don't float away because I feel tethered to the earth. I feel held by the seat. And when you're practicing this kind of like experiencing, then you begin to get these, like I would say, somatic experiences or tastes of emptiness. And these tastes or experiences of emptiness doesn't mean anything disappears. And I think that's where we get confused here in emptiness meditation. You don't get to emptiness meditation by everything going blank. Like emptiness isn't a screen going blank. Right? Emptiness is this faith, this growing belief that there's a deeper truth, a deeper experience than what we're meeting face on. Right? There are two things happening. It's what we perceive as an experience, and then there is the truth of that experience. Both of those can be true and are true. Yes, we are experiencing something, and yes, the nature of that experience is empty. And again, when we say empty, we're saying, okay, what's really there besides my perceptions, assumptions, and narratives? What's really there beyond my reactivity? What's there beyond this collective narrative reactivity to something? What's really there? What's really happening? Mhm. What's really arising? And some of us are really working with fear right now, right? So you may be leaning into some of that fear. But what is it really? Because we can't say, "Oh, I am terrified. I am afraid." Let's leave that language at the door. So let's transition to the language of I'm experiencing this. This is an experience. It's still arising. It's still there, but it's still an experience. And I can get a little bit of space into this. It's not going to disappear, but it's not going to feel so immediate and real. And then you can ask yourself, okay, what is the nature of this fear? What is the essence of this fear? What is fear? Can you touch it? I mean, really, physically, can you touch it? Can you taste it? Can you see it? Can you marry it? What can you do? What is this? What is fear? The deeper we get into it, the more we see all of these ravel. This it's a ball of all of these experiences wrapped together. And the more we do this kind of inquiry practice, the more we begin to peel back layers or peel back strands from this ball of fear. There are many things happening in this fear. As I often say, this is a composite experience. It looks like one solid thing until you get close enough and you're like, oh, it's all these different things balled together. And I don't have to like take on the whole mass of stuff, but I can start focusing on bits and pieces. noticing, naming these things, bringing them into focus, asking myself, okay, what is this? What's going on here? And then all the physical experiences, the sensations are a part of this. My fear is also this expression of my speeding heartbeat, my racing heartbeat, the tightness in some part of my body. It is the anger that I'm also feeling. It's the aversion, the pushing away of something. This fear or whatever you're working with is just an experience. But what is this experience? Where does it come from? Where is it going? This is the medicine here that some of you are very much need right now. This is the agency. Everything that I've been talking about really comes back to this moment. Am I going to challenge this fear by asking this question, what are you? And can you just be this experience instead of something I'm just habitually reacting to? And we're not talking about what fear means and what it's connected to and the future and the anxieties and all of that. Like we're talking about this one experience of whatever you're working with. I'm using fear, right? You can be using anger, what have you. It's not about this other stuff. It's about this moment of my relationship to this experience. Yes, that has so much meaning, but can I let go of reacting to all of that meaning and just sit with the experience itself? Right? It's just fear. It's not fear about the future. It's not fear about war or whatever. It's just fear. Let it just be fear. And when you let it just be fear, then it becomes a lot more manageable, right? Get to the heart of the practice. This is the heart of the practice. This is fear. This is an experience. This is not what or who I am. And there's energy here, right? This energy is held by space. And the space, yes, is an expression of this deeper truth of emptiness. But if all of this is being held by emptiness, emptiness isn't so empty then. It's not void. There's a fullness here. Your awareness. is a part of the fullness. Your awareness is something we can take refuge in, we can expand into. The knowingness fills emptiness itself. Right? But the emptiness, right, is the real truth that whatever we think shit is not. That thought can be deeply liberating for some of us, if not all of us. It's not what I think it is. And I won't be able to get to that truth through thinking, through processing, through reading, but through this experience, which is the act of experiencing itself, feeling into without the narratives, but just the feeling, the experience beyond the language, the experience beyond this cognitive kind of chatter, just the experience. Just a little bit longer, just a little bit further. And there's a kind of freedom here. There's a kind of freedom here if we can hold on a little bit longer, right? If we can trust the process a little bit longer. There's a little bit, it may not be a lot of freedom, but it can be a speck of freedom, but that can be enough to get you through the next week, right? You don't have to ask for a lot, but a little bit of dulling of the edge, of the urgency of things, a little bit of dulling, like dulling that edge of urgency can go a very long way right now. Again, we're not trying to disappear everything. We're just trying to figure out what it is that we've been self-identifying with. And this is how we reach. Well, this is when rather we can reach into wherever we're at to begin to call forth all the Buddhas. This is where the Buddhas live, right? In this space of experience, that they emerge out of emptiness, right? They emerge out of the state of emptiness and take on a different experience, right? And so we turn our attention to our opening mantra, right? Om Minla Sange Kino Soha. Om Minla Kino Soha, which we'll chant 3 times, beginning with chanting Om and then chanting the mantra 3 times, ending with Om. As we chant this, of course, you can just sit and listen, you can chant with me. But as we're chanting, allowing this space that you find yourself in, allowing the space to give rise to the experience of Medicine Buddha. Whatever that experience is for you, just noticing what begins to happen when we began the chanting. What is taking form as we call Medicine Buddha from the depths of these experiences into an experience we can relate to. Right, so we beginning with Om. Om Lazange Kino Soha. Om Lazange Kino Soha. Om Lazange Kino So again, finding your seat, finding the weight of your body, meeting the seat, relating to everything as an experience, including whatever experience has been awakened for you, as we've called the consciousness of Medicine Buddha to take shape, to take form in our practice. And in your mind, there's all kinds of things that can be happening. You can see, particularly in your mind, the arising of Medicine Buddha. You can feel Medicine Buddha. You can just have a faith or a sense that Medicine Buddha has awakened for you. But let's trust the experience and just say Medicine Buddha has arrived. Regardless of what you sense or experience, let's just say Medicine Buddha is here, is showing up for us. Sometimes for me, Medicine Buddha is the experience of things moving, with something getting fluid or lighter or more transparent, right? The realness of everything begins to dull itself. And there's a little bit of a transparency in what I've been experiencing and struggling with. There's a little more light. There's a little more groundedness. All of these can be expressions of Medicine Buddha. And then we can begin to turn our attention to Medicine Buddha's main mantra, which we'll just chant for a few moments before going into our prayers, right? Tea taon bacon se, ma bacon se, rasu sumungate, soha, right? And again, you can chant along or just listen. But as we're chanting, just noticing what's happening, what's moving, what's loosening up, what's getting transparent, right? What kind of clarity and understanding is awakening for you? These are the ways that the Buddhas move through us and support us through these experiences. You don't have to see these deities for them to be really working through you and for you to get you free. So we begin. O te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sungate soha. Te anda begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza 대한다 옴백은세 백은세 마백은세 라스 수문가래소아 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 대한다 옴백은세 백은세 마백은세 라스 수문가래소아. Just turning my attention to the prayer requests, and as always, we call into the space all the beings who can hold these prayers along with us to bring about the fruition of these prayers, including all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all the Yidams, Dharma protectors, all the beings of light, all the protectors and guardians of the lands, of the sacred elements, all of our benevolent ancestors, as well as our descendants. We call all beings who are about liberation, being deeply rooted in real love. We call all these beings into the space to hear these prayers as we offer them to you, to work with us and on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. We're offering prayers for peace for all beings everywhere. May we all feel supported during this time of political unraveling. Offering prayers for R and I to be and to become what divinity has planned for us. Offering prayers of gratitude for a smooth 17th birthday for my girl. Offering prayers of gratitude for family and community. Offering prayers of gratitude that no one was hurt in a head-on collision my daughter and I were in on Friday Eve. Offering prayers that Teddy recover and come home from the hospital. Prayers that love flows into the streets, disrupting all the hateful nonsense coming from the orange one. Offering prayers for my partner Nikki, who's providing care for their father who's fighting ALS and cancer. Offering prayers that my spine heals well and I find a fantastic job soon. Prayers of all for all of experiencing dysregulation amid shocking news. Prayers for the health of Abby, Leah, Jenna, and Dolores. Offering prayers of love and protection upon all the poor, all those alone, all afraid ones. Offering prayers for myself, may I be well, healed, and joyful in body, mind, and spirit. Offering prayers for M and her family in Palestine. May they have what they need and be free as soon as possible. Offering prayers for the land. May we grieve and collaborate on how to get free together. Offering prayers that may all the safe enough for now ones build networks and reach out to others who are in need. Offering prayers for me to have forgiveness and compassion for the woman who claimed I hit her on purpose in the pool and was transphobic and ableist, along with the Chad who agreed with her as he left. Offering prayers that white Canadians can stop believing they magically aren't racist, transphobic, and acknowledge settler colonialism. Offering prayers for the well-being of all and for recognition of my own true nature. Offering prayers for Y, who is going through housing and spiritual issues. Prayers for SG, who is mourning the death of a parent. Prayers for N's aunt, who is dealing with cancer. Offering prayers for the people of Palestine, Congo, Sudan, Lebanon, and Ukraine. Offering prayers that we all may become free. Prayers that I may be an agent for liberation. Offering prayers that I get over this cold soon. Offering prayers for my loved ones who are consumed with rage at the cruelty and hatred unfolding in the U.S. government. Prayers that we can meet this moment with strength and love. Offering prayers of gratitude for this community and for Lama Rod. Offering prayers for clarity on what my role and purpose is in this moment in time and the courage to follow through on that clarity. Offering prayers for all those being directly impacted by the chaos of the new administration. May all be safe and may we all work to repair harm and end suffering for all beings. May we all be free. Offering prayers for my biopsy to be negative, prayers for M and R to experience healing and freedom. Offering prayers for Bindu Marie Cooper for health, ease, and well-being. Prayers for Lama Rod and his team. Offering prayers for this season of grieving to transmute into medicine for LG and all beings. Offering prayers for myself and all beings with chronic illness. May we find the healing we need. Offering prayers for hope and the energy to keep going. Offering prayers for solidarity among people during this chaotic time. Let us not turn against each other or forget our brothers and sisters amid our own struggles. Prayers for Appa. May he be held in light as he passed through the Bardo and continue to guide Santi to their freedom. Offering prayers to protect, nourish, and open sanctuary for undocumented people, trans folks, and the LGBTQ community. Please heal the hate in the United States and allow all to see our interconnected humanity and possibilities for collective liberation. Offering prayers that we please heal the water element and earth elements which are currently full of contaminant plastics and the suffering caused by fossil fuels and unsustainable living. Offering prayers of thanks and deep gratitude to Medicine Buddha and all of my beloved guides. Offering prayers for my writing to be sustainable and for the work to help as many beings as possible to be well and get free. Offering prayers for me to be able to settle into a knowing of who I am and an acceptance of my safety and my destiny as a healer. Offering prayers that my liberation from my long-time medication will be supported and that I may peacefully find sleep and freedom from headaches during the transition away from dependence on it. Offering prayers that my healing from many lives of oppression will soon result in full physical health and healing that allows space for expression of my full empowered self. Offering prayers for protection and power. Prayers that my brother Julian finds his way to light during this dark time and heals. May we all quickly remember ourselves. Prayers to guide me into deeper relationship with my ancestors and their power. Prayers for the end of greed and all forms of carcerality. Prayers for the elderly and the young ones. Prayers for Bumimar. Prayers for all beings in all realms and timelines to be free and immediate ease. Prayers for me to find gentle decolonity in my work. May holding the line allow me to take up all the space I need to also be well, and may my offerings be clear and loving. May my mental health work become true work of healing. Ashe. Prayers for all those who have survived sexual abuse and who have been triggered by the Diddy allegations, particularly those whose friends have continued to support Beyonce uncritically in the face of her open support for her husband despite his ties to Diddy. Offering prayers for Nellie Perez, David Jones, my mother and father. Prayers for all the young North Korean soldiers and soldiers tricked into participating in the Ukraine-Russian war that has nothing to do with them. Prayers for their families who never see them again. Prayers for the ending of wars all over the world, everywhere. Offering prayers for S after she got the results of her medical tests today. Prayers for the husband of my friend S who will be having surgery tomorrow to remove a migrant colon polyp. Prayers for LG, a young woman who unexpectedly got a diagnosis of metastatic cancer recently. Prayers for myself and all people everywhere who are suffering from the experience of deep fear and anxiety. Prayers for myself for healing the body, mind, spirit, to be able to sleep and to find solace and community, and prayers for my health. Prayers for healing my physical, emotional, psychic, and spiritual well-being as I recover from surgery and complications. May I be well. Offering prayers that I may find my way through the uncertainty I'm living through, especially on finding my way into financial abundance as soon as possible. Prayers that I may receive the support needed to pay my mortgage and livelihood until I have a stable income stream that serves healing for myself and all I work with. Prayers for personal and collective liberation. May we awaken as quickly as possible, and may we have all the gentle reminders we need to keep practicing awakening. Prayers for all of us caught in the cycle of fear, anger, and insecurity. Prayers for me and my mom. May we both have the peace and good health we need to be together. Prayers for all. Offering prayers to heal the bird flu pandemic and protect the world from the looming health crisis. Prayers to heal Nicholas's MS and open up a better life and awakening for him. Prayers to open up a rooted and safe living situation. Prayers for my mother's peace and happiness as she continues her journey into Alzheimer's and its parallel realities, and for myself as I reckon with my relationship to her vulnerability. And offering prayers for my hearing as I offering prayers for my healing as I follow my purpose and path, and for all those who wish me harm. We continue to pray for the liberation of all of us from all systems of harm. We continue to pray for deep healing, for the end of everything that gets in the way of us remembering who and what we really are. May we continue to work to accomplish liberation for not just ourselves, but for all of us. May we all get free as quickly as possible, and may it be so. We offer these prayers to all those who have gathered, to the retinue, the field of refuge. May you accept these prayers and begin to work with us and also on our behalf to bring about the fruition of these prayers. And we turn our attention back into the mantra, and again, allowing ourselves to rest within the space, letting go of what needs to be let go of, and allowing space, emptiness, to do this deep tending for you in these next few moments. May these last few moments, may the real deep, profound medicine of Medicine Buddha pour freely into the places you most need this medicine. O Eyanda Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razumunga Soha. 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 Eyanda Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, 온비근세 비근세 마비근세 라스 수문간에 소와 대한다 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 온비근세 비근세 마비근세 라스 수문간에 소와. So just resting in the space for just a few more seconds before we transition out of our practice. And when you're ready, beginning to shift your attention back to the seat, to the weight of your body, and the seat rising to hold you. Allowing yourself to come back into this timeline by slowly beginning to reawaken your bodies, maybe moving through some simple movements, some simple awakening stretches, and so forth. A few deep breaths, cleansing breaths. Again, also thanking the earth, the lands that you're practicing on and being held by as well. And just generally thanking all these elements of your practice that have felt sustaining for you in the session. And then we shall turn our attention to the chat box to Shanti Deva's prayer, which we'll recite 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, and a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as the earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space.